So a very frequent question I've been getting, especially since I've moved to Toronto, is,
Maggie, where did you go to school? And when I say Newfoundland, they're like, Newfoundland? Why there of all places? And
well, I had my reasons. So for all of you out there who are looking for an option for coming to Canada and you're thinking about a school, I'm going to be telling you about my experience of how I moved to Canada, what were the things I considered in particular when I decided to move to this province, and all that stuff. So stay tuned. What up everyone, CharisMaggie here, and welcome back to my channel where I encourage you to submerge yourself in culture and live meaningful lives. Now for today's video, I'm going to be talking about something, well, more or less answering some questions I've been getting. It's been very popular in my DMs, on WhatsApp, frequent, just conversations even on Facebook Messenger. And it's funny because one of the reasons I even got to start in this YouTube channel has to do with this very topic. So took me long enough, but I got there. So before I just dive into the video, let me just paint a picture for you, give you a bit of a backstory of how I even thought about going to a school outside of Belize. So I didn't grow up in Belize. I only spent 2 years there where I completed my associate's degree. And originally I was living in Jamaica for about 15 years, and I had completed 1 year of junior college at a school in Montego Bay. And when my parents got moved to Belize, the education system on that level was different for Jamaica and Belize in terms of CAPE versus SATs. So I had to start from scratch. None of my credits from Jamaica was transferable. So after moping about it for a while, getting used to it, doing it, I don't regret it. After the 2 years, I met some great people. I feel great about the education that I got as well, and I graduated, and I was beginning to think about my future for life after graduation. So this is where the story starts, okay? I always knew that I didn't want to stay in Belize to complete my post-secondary education, well, university level education. There are various reasons for that, but I won't get into that. Resources wise, for some of the things I wanted to be able to be, exposed to and to explore, I didn't think that for what I wanted to do, Belize was able to, expose me to that right now. So I had to make the decision for, moving away. And the third reason, I don't know how long my parents were going to stay in Belize. So my fear was starting a 4-year program, and then probably in my 3rd year, they end up getting moved, and I had to decide between staying in Belize by myself or moving with my parents and starting all over again with trying to get my bachelor's. So we're almost graduating, and this time of the year, during like spring or so, the schools start to roll in and everyone comes with their presentation to give you top-notch quality of why you should come to their school. And they are, local schools, and some of them are schools from the United States. Most of them have been from the United States. A couple of them have some partnerships with the school that I went to in Belize. So of course I would go to all these presentations, listen to what they had to say, what they have to offer, what programs were there, see if it aligned with what I was interested in. And I always had my mind on going to a school in the US. I never thought about Canada ever. It was never on my radar, but US was on my mind. And I just said, anywhere that's warm, which is pretty ironic because I ended up in Newfoundland, which is a cold part of Canada. So ironic. But lo and behold, everything that would have determined if I would go to any of these schools was definitely going to come down to the cost. One of them, I believe it was like 68,000 is what it came down to for the whole year, is what an international student would be paying to go to their school. So of course it's like no deal. I knew what my parents' budget was looking like, and it definitely wasn't no 68,000 a year. So that wasn't gonna work. So I was giving up. I didn't want to go to any more presentations, but there was one more presentation. It happened to be the last one, and a friend kind of nudged me to come. They're like, what do we have to lose? We go, we hear what they have to say. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Let's just go and hear what they have to say. So I went, and this school was Memorial University, that's in Newfoundland. And for those of you who know, I graduated about 4 years ago. I have my vlog video up for my graduation. If you want to check it out, go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's the school I went to for 4 years, specifically the smaller campus, Grenfell. I don't know really how to explain it, but the minute they started talking about the school, I don't know if it's because they talked about, smaller classroom sizes as an option for one of the campus, that kind of, reeled me in or what, or also because one of the recruiters that was there happened to be Belizean herself, and I felt like this connection right off the bat. And surprisingly enough, if you have watched my video on People of Belize, she's actually the one who's featured in that video with me. She was one of the first Belizean students to go to this school all the way in Newfoundland, and I felt like I could ask her anything and that she would be truthful to me, and that's what I did. So then it goes down to the price, and I'm like, please, Lord Jesus, please don't let this be another disappointment, because they got me hooked already. And they made the price, and I was like, oh, okay, I think we can work with that. That sounds reasonable. And it turns out that at the time, I don't know about now, because schools be trying it with raising their tuition, especially for international students, but at the time they were the cheapest university in entire Canada. So I go home, I'm all pumped, I'm ready to present this to my parents to let them know about this option, that there is a possibility for me to go overseas to do my schooling, just that it won't be in the States, it will be maybe in Canada. So I finished my presentation, and my parents are like, okay, you can go ahead and apply. And I was like, yes. So I go and apply, and luckily for us who went to my junior college, we were able to get our application fee of $100 waived. And I've also found out that our school had some partnership with the Memorial University, because one of the major reasons that I got the push to go to that school was because they accepted a couple of my credits that I already did at junior college. So a lot of the beginner level, electives that you have to do in like your first or second year of university, I didn't have to do some of those. So yeah, collaboration. So I sent off my application, and at this point, this is not even a done deal. Before you can just get up and just go to Canada, you have to get a student visa, okay? So this was the next process. But before I did that, I did further research. I researched their weather. I researched, what services are there, especially for someone like me, a black person. I wanted to know, like, can I get my hair done, all those stuff. So how I was able to do that is I simply googled the school's address and like put like hair salons near whatever the school's address was, and whatever came up, the numbers I got, I would call them, because at the time I had access to calling the USA or Canada for like free. And I did that, called up these places, found out what they offered. Of course, they didn't offer that for me because the province was, predominantly white. And so most of the services would cater to mostly that demographic. So I already knew from the get-go, girl, bring your braids, bring your hair relaxer, all them things, because even if it is possible for you to get it in Canada, it might be super expensive, and I wasn't trying to pay any extra money. So I brought all my stuff. Now for the next process, the visa process, I think I talked about that more in depth in my very first 2 videos that I ever uploaded on this channel. But just to recap, when you are applying for your visa, first of all, before you can apply, you have to get accepted by the school, and they would send you an acceptance letter. Some other things that they'll ask for is like financial statements, because they want to see proof that you're able to sustain yourself financially for the 4 years, and that would include your education, room and board, books, and stuff like food throughout the year, things like that. They also would want your transcript from your old school or your current school that you will be graduating from. What are some other stuff? I can't remember, like passport, a passport size picture, a picture of your passport, the front page. That is what I remember that I was asked for at the time. There were a couple of other things, but those were the stuff that I remembered. If you're someone who doesn't have money just sitting in the bank like that to just show like a bank statement like that, you would need to apply for a loan, and the loan, whatever they provide to you when they do give you a loan, is what you would provide for. This is how I'm going to be, financing my education. I wasn't able to get a loan because where I lived at the time, again, you wouldn't get a loan if you weren't a citizen, which I wasn't. So basically, my parents just made a lot of sacrifices for me to actually get this opportunity. A lot of years not going on vacation, a lot of years not doing stuff that they would like to do for themselves, so that myself and my brother could get a tertiary education. So thank you so much, mommy and daddy, for the support and for the sacrifices that you made. So to recap, you need to research any schools that are offering your program. Forget about thinking about where it's located. You can also do additional research after, but research all of the schools that have your program. Compare in terms of how much work are you gonna have to put in applying to these schools. Like, are they gonna ask you to do some tests that you need to do to get into the school? Are they gonna accept your credits so that you can just jump ahead and do your main courses because you already did some electives with an associate? All these things you want to ask yourself, especially if you're thinking about doing a 4-year program. Think about these things before you actually just narrow down to one school that you heard is very popular. Apply to the school. When you get your acceptance letter, start applying for your visa, and also don't take too long because you never know how long these processes take, especially if you're applying for a school that starts in September or you're starting school in January, which is the winter time. Don't waste too much time. Try and get everything you need all at once, which is why the research part is very important. Right now, every single school has a page, especially if you need information as an international student. They tell you all the things that you'll need to provide, so pay attention to all those things that they ask for. Now to the real question. My choice of going to Newfoundland, was it a good one? Do I regret it? Would I recommend it? The only thing I can say regarding this is, at the end of the day, everyone is going to have to make decisions for themselves based on what they are able to do. So for me, I wasn't able to go to a school in Toronto because Toronto schools were very, very expensive, just as expensive as some of the schools in the States. Secondly, 4 years away from family, is it something I would be able to do? If not, how would I cope with being away? Like, I was not concerned about moving to another country because I have been doing it so long from all the different moves I've been doing. But the only difference is that at this time I would be on my own. So it definitely helped that I was able to meet friends quickly and developed friendship that helped me in that aspect. But leaving family definitely was very hard. Every time I would go to visit, leaving to come back for school was harder every single time. But I already mentally prepared myself that for 4 years, this is what I want to do, because this is the end goal that I see for myself. Getting a degree, getting a job, trying to get myself settled in Canada, in the process of trying to do that. So it's definitely going to be all about sacrifices. Some of the sacrifices I had to make, for example, was not actually attending my graduation. I got a summer job to work at a camp in the States, and for about 3 months I was working there, and because of the start date, I would not have made my graduation. So my parents actually went to my award ceremony, collected my awards for me and my graduation certificate, all that stuff. And as much as I wanted to be there with friends, to walk along with them across the stage and receive my diploma, that would have just been one day of celebration versus me working for the summer to, get some money that could help me with some of the fees that I had for like room and board or books, different things like that, right? Another thing is, I knew I had to think about getting out of my comfort zone. So yes, I've always been with my parents. They're all I've ever known. I would be moving by myself. If I would be visiting, it would probably just be once a year. Like, is that something I would be able to do? I wouldn't be able to get the foods I like very easily anymore. Hair and all that stuff, to do my hair, I would have to find people to do it or learn to do it myself, which is something I eventually learned to do. But again, all these questions I had to ask myself so that I could make up my mind that this is a decision I have to make. And this is some of the sacrifices, because I knew what I was capable of, but I didn't want myself to be held back of pursuing higher education because of like little fears or concerns I might have had. So yeah, it's gonna be different, definitely different for everybody. My experience was, I would say overall it was good. I met a lot of people who embraced me in Newfoundland. They're very warm people, friendly for sure. And I had friends who, some of them I eventually met who came from Belize as well, other countries like Nigeria and Cameroon and Ghana, developed friendships. So I don't regret the experience. I have been able to do things like snowboarding and rollerblading and skiing. Like, like you're talking about a girl who thought that the only place she would be able to go to school would be somewhere that is hot. I landed in Newfoundland on my 20th birthday with my 3 overweight luggages, and life as I knew it would never be the same again. So, yeah, that is the reason I ended up going to school in Newfoundland, and that is how I went about my process of coming to Canada. Now, everyone's experience is going to be very different because it's going to depend on the country you're applying for, what schools are requiring from you based on the programs you're applying for, the test you have to do, if you have to do any transferable credits or not. So just keep all these things in mind. Culturally, there will be a culture shock, so just be ready for that. Just try and focus more on the positive. I believe, in a nutshell, I would say my experience in Newfoundland overall, I would say it was good because I had great friends, and I also met a lot of great people from the province that to this day I still, speak to them once in a while, and they made me feel welcome. Overall, they are a welcoming people. I did realize that some parts of Newfoundland, the culture is super similar to like Caribbean culture in terms of like the hospitality and things like that. So in some ways, the culture shock wasn't too much, but I am definitely glad that I was open to a new experience, something definitely out of my comfort zone, a different cultural experience, and I have lived to tell the tale. Because now I'm in Toronto with their winters, and that's a whole different story. Maybe I'll make a video comparing Newfoundland to Toronto. If you want to see that video, comment below, and I'll whip up something for you. Yes, yes. If you're curious to know more about Newfoundland, like how to speak like a Newfoundlander, I have a video about that actually, so you can click right here to check that out. And if you want to know more about the in-depth process of what to do before you make that big move to Canada or anywhere, check out this playlist right here. My very 2 videos, I answer most of the questions right there. So go ahead and check those out, and I'll see you in the next video.